Okay, so Jake, if I send a buyer to you, what are you telling them? What are the main points that they need to start doing
Sure.
to be ready to buy?
Well, I usually take a few minutes and just talk about the process, and I think it's best that people understand what the rules are, and we have to stay in our lane and comply with the rules. And for that reason, then it leads into the different aspects that we need to cover to become pre-approved. And so when an agent calls me and says, "Hey, talk to so and so," they said they're ready to buy, and I interview them and I pull their credit and I find out about how much they make and save. And sometimes I'll call the agent back and say they're not planning on buying a house, they're dreaming about buying a house, and they haven't done a thing. But I always take the extra time to coach them about what elements are necessary to become a buyer, because it's not necessarily the down payment, because there's other ways to go about that, but you still have your debt to income ratio. It's something we all have to follow, which is your ability to repay. That dictates how much of a payment you can afford, which translates to how much of a home you could be out there looking for. And for some people, they say, "Well, I can't find anything for that. That price is too low." Well, maybe you could focus on paying off some debt
Hmm.
so that in 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and it's not unusual that I'll talk to somebody the first time, and maybe months, even a year or so. Others I've had longer before they actually pull the trigger,
Hmm.
because they had to be educated on what they can do to put themselves in a position not just to become a home buyer, but to get the best terms available to them in their scenario. And I love working with those people because they take it to heart, they do what I suggest.
Hmm.
And I forget the name of the folks that we worked with and
That we
settled down
just
there in
closed.
Canton. Yeah, in Canton, and she did exactly what she needed to do. It took her
Yes.
4 or 5 months.
Hmm.
They got a great deal. They got money from the state of Maryland
Hmm.
to buy the house. They didn't need a down payment, and it was great to work with them because she wanted it, she planned on it, and
Hmm.
she made it happen. I
Hmm.
gave her the information that she needed to do it. That was the best case scenario, I think.
Yeah, so let's just talk about, okay, so the zero down payment. So the buyer doesn't need the down payment, but they still need to put money into the transaction, right?
That's a fact. So, and
Yeah.
we have a portfolio program where you do not need a down payment. It's 100% financing. Now, there
Hmm.
are some criteria that you have to have good credit, and your debt to income ratio can't exceed a certain point and all this. But there are definitely programs available that it allows for 100% financing. But that shouldn't be construed to mean you don't need some money in the bank.
Right. Yeah, like we don't want to be deceiving. You do have to have some money to put into the deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And I know when the current administration, when the election was taking place, and both sides were making comments about having money available for grants. Well, there's been money available. You can get
Oh
twenty
my
thousand
gosh.
dollars from a federal grant that's been around as long as I can remember. So
Yes.
it wasn't new. Maybe the
Right.
people that saw, those talking points thought it was new, but it wasn't
Right.
new to me. And they actually just raised the amount now. It can be as much as 20,000 on one particular program, and you could stack programs. So there's
Right.
lots of money out there. There's always a caveat of something to qualify. You don't get free money if you're in the top 1% earners
Right.
and have assets in the bank.
Right.
That's
There
not
has to
who.
be a need.
Right, a need, and that money should go to somebody else who's qualified for it. You're
Right.
not qualified for it if you have 20% to put down. That's not what it's for.
Right. Because the goal is to create home ownership with those programs.
Exactly.
Right.
That's a
So
fact.
you want to give the money and allocate the money to people who need it.
That's where it's allocated for, and that's available.
Yeah. So one thing that I always talk about when I'm talking to a new buyer, if they've come to me without a lender, I kind of explain, okay, your realtor and your lender and your title company work closely together. It's so I need to have a working relationship with your lender
Sure.
and the title company that you choose.
That's I
I mean,
tell people that all the time.
it's critical because we're a team. Once we go under contract, even before we go under contract, it's critical for me to have a working relationship with their lender.
Oh, I've had people say to me before, that their lender didn't tell them how much money they needed ultimately to get the closing, and now 3 days before
Right.
closing, they find out. That's absurd. I think my best practice is that if you're interested in a house before you even get out and look at the house, I'm going to generate a loan estimate. If you have a lender that says he won't or can't generate a loan estimate, go find another lender. I can do it in 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's necessary. It's because that leads to the conversation about what the payment is, how much money you need, and then it leads to a lot of other conversations too about what house to choose. I just try to take the time and talk to people because I don't think they know, and why would they? Most people buy
Right.
what? How many? You
This is
tell
what
me
we do for a
how
living.
many houses do people buy in their lifetime typically?
Right. One, two, three.
Right, and if you haven't done it ever, I don't think it's reasonable. You shouldn't be expected to know that.
Right.
But I think you should also expect that the lender can talk to you about those things. And there's actually there's information available for home buyer workshops that you can take
Mm-hmm.
online. If you get assistance, they're usually required. If you get one of the first time home buyer programs, they are definitely required,
Mm-hmm.
and they're free. And I encourage people to watch those videos, even if to the extent that you watch the video and then you ask me questions to get a deeper dive.
Right.
At least you it's more than just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot going into it. So I would encourage people to look for that. Just Google search first time
Yeah.
home buyer class and you'll find it, and don't pay for it.
Right. I agree.